Yes, folks, August 22nd to 24th, something big is going to be going down. We all know it's coming. We've been talking about it. You've been hearing about it here and there. But there is a major conference in South Africa where the announcement of the end of the US dollar will be put forward publicly. The BRICS countries have a major conference in South Africa, at which point they are going to announce the BRICS currency. When they do that, when Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a bunch of these other countries get together to start the process of implementing the BRICS currency, it will spell the end of the US dollar. We're going to talk about what you can do about it and what this is going to look like rolling out so that you can get ahead of this thing. Let's jump into it, folks. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And when I see these things happening in the international markets, the currencies and all that kind of stuff like that, I can't keep silent. I'm trying to warn you. A lot of you guys have heard this from other channels already. You've heard about the BRICS currency. You've heard a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're going to talk about exactly what it's going to look like being implemented, though. So the BRICS nations are working on developing a new currency here. And they can't just move straight from their independent currencies and using the SWIFT system, which with the US dollar, to transfer money back and forth. They are going to have to take some steps to get there. They all have their independent currencies, but they're not actually linked directly into the SWIFT system. First, they need a clearinghouse system. Now, we've been talking about this over the last number of days. China has implemented a SWIFT replacement system. Russia has moved to put a SWIFT replacement system in place. And Iran has launched a SWIFT replacement system. Now, over the last number of days, we've heard announcements that on July 1st, we're going to see that the Asian central banks are going to get together. We're going to have Iran, Pakistan, India, and a bunch of these other countries are going to get onto the Iranian system, and then they're going to kind of fix the Iranian system, so to speak. Now, how that's going to interact directly or indirectly with the Russian system and the Chinese system, I don't know. But obviously, there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes about this. So you wouldn't see Brazil, they jumped on the Chinese system. They wouldn't be doing that unless they know that they can kind of connect between the systems. So they're probably going to come out with some sort of announcement on integrating some of these systems. But the big news out there is that the next step, here's the quote, "The transition to settlements in national currencies is the first step." So they're going to keep their national currencies for the moment, but they're going to start being able to swap their currencies back and forth. So they're going to be able to trade, the Indians are going to take their rupee, and they're going to be able to trade directly with the Pakistani rupee. So they're going to somehow set the exchange rates between those two, and then they're just going to be able to transfer money back and forth. And that's a big step forward. And when they start transferring from India to Russia, or when they transfer it over to China, they're going to be able to they're not going to be able to go from their currency into dollars or pounds or euros and then over to the other country's currency. They're not going to be moving dollars back and forth. They're not going to be using euros at all. They're going to use their national currency, and they're going to use the other country's national currency. That's the first step. They just need to confirm things so they can move money around. Once they've done that, the next step, the next one is to provide the circulation of a digital or other form of a fundamentally new currency in the nearest future. And that's what we talk about, like this BRICS currency. We don't know what they're going to call it yet, but the BRICS currency is going to be second step. So first they need to be able to move money between their countries using their national currencies. Then they're going to bring in, instead of moving all their little currencies around, they're going to have this fundamental currency that everything's pegged to, that they're going to be able to go from their national currency to this major currency, and people will start to be able to phase out their national currencies if they want to, sort of like the euro. Whereas most of the countries in Europe got off their independent currencies and they got onto the euro. That's kind of the same idea with the BRICS currency. Now, what's different about the BRICS currency is that the BRICS currency is going to be pegged to commodities. And when we look at the BRICS countries, just to give you a kind of an idea, so BRICS, of course, is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But there's other countries that are associating with them now and are probably going to be a part of this. Argentina, Iran, Indonesia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of countries. Pakistan is probably going to hop in the mix here too. We already seen that. Malaysia is probably going to jump in there too. So we got a whole bunch of countries that are going to get on board with this real fast. And these countries tend to not be dollar rich. They tend to be resource rich. And that's the big thing we need to be thinking about here, is that they want to move over to commodities, away from the dollar. The dollar has been so financialized, so manipulated. We have central bankers in the United States just playing monkey games, and then politicians in the United States putting sanctions on random countries for whatever reason they feel like. And nobody else can say anything because the United States is sitting there at the controls and they can do whatever they want to do. So when this gets announced, the world is just not ready for this, okay? When this gets announced, expect a lot of currencies to lose their value very quickly. While the first stage is still going to be in their national currencies, the second stage is going to be pegged primarily to gold. And gold has been way undervalued significantly. There's people talking about gold going from $2,000 to $10,000. And that's not unrealistic. Now, it's not so much that gold's going to go up so much in value, though it probably will go up in a fair bit of value. It's also going to be that the dollar, the euro, the pound, all these currencies are just going to drop. They're going to drop in value because people are going to realize that tens of billions, hundreds of billions, even trillions of dollars are going to stop being used. They're not going to be circulating anymore. And that means they're all going to come to the bank, and the bank's just going to get stuck with a whole bunch of cash that nobody wants, which is going to make the dollar less valuable. When everybody says, we want all of our stuff back, we want all of our other currencies back, you can have all your dollars back. What are we going to do with that many dollars? There's way too many. And it's going to be each individual currency, each country doing this to us. And they're all going to do it to us at the same time. There's going to be a whole bunch of investors that are going to see this coming. And when this gets announced, they're going to say, we need to get out of the dollar fast. We need to get out of U.S. Treasury bills. We need to get out of everything that smacks of the dollar. And we're going to see the market twitch in a way that we have not seen it twitch since the 80s, 70s. We haven't had this type of instability in the world because the US dollar has become so universal, so well regarded, I guess. But when we see that the cost of gold in dollars gets revalued significantly, that's going to change things. Now, gold is money. I mean, it already is. Central banks around the world have gold assets. China has been buying up more gold, and we see that a lot of these BRICS countries have been stockpiling gold in a lead up to this. Now, the BRICS currency is not going to be pegged just to gold. There's negotiations that have been going on for a couple of years now of what exactly is going to be in the basket. Gold is definitely going to be in the basket. Russia wants oil and wheat in the basket as well. Other countries don't want wheat in the basket. So, I mean, there's just this conversation about what exactly the basket's going to be. So it's going to be like one BRICS dollar or whatever is going to be the equivalent to, you know, such and such fragment of an ounce of gold and, you know, half a bushel of wheat and, you know, this kind of thing and all that together. And then they're going to peg the values of the commodities to each other so they can kind of trade between them. So some countries that don't have all much wheat will be able to, you know, counteract it with gold and that kind of thing. But What we do know for sure is that the BRICS currency will be pegged to gold. And that is going to change the game significantly. Now, I said August 22nd through 24th, that's when this is going to get announced. We've been told that directly by the BRICS, by the folks at the BRICS, so State Duma Deputy Chairman, whatever that is, Alexander Babakov, that's in Russia, but he said this at the India-Russia Business Forum, that they're going to roll this out. It's going to be proposed to the BRICS leadership conference, and that's going to fundamentally change currencies in the world. We've seen the United States use its position unilaterally time and time again, and what we're seeing now is a lot of the world coming together and saying, no, we want to create not a unipolar, one pole, not a unipolar currency or exchange or way of doing financing. We want everyone to have a say in this. We want everyone to work together on this. We want to have a discussion and to come to terms about what that's going to look like. It kind of sounds democratic almost, right? I think that fundamentally, if we were to pull ourselves out of being Americans, and if you're the UK or Australia, most of you are in countries that are aligned with the United States to one extent or another. If you were to pull yourself out of your political allegiances and such, this doesn't actually sound all that bad. I mean, a more solid form of currency that's not governed by one country, but is governed by many countries, all kind of making agreements and pegging the value of it to actual commodities. That sounds actually reasonable. That sounds like sound money. That sounds like a step in the right direction, actually. And it's going to be digital in nature, so that they're going to be able to do all the digital crypto exchanges with it, so that they can make these transfers on ledgers and all that kind of stuff like that. Some of the advances, now it's not like a public ledger, and it's not like open source, and it's not distributed necessarily, but it has some of the same hallmarks and advances of that. So it's commodity based, but then it has a lot of the digital systems in it too, and it's going to be international in scope. So for the world, this is going to be kind of good news. For the United States, it's not going to be good news. So if you're sitting there, linked your assets and all your things pegged to the dollar, that's going to not go so well for you. If you're sitting there with a whole bunch of dollars in your bank account, they're going to become a lot less valuable very quickly. How can you get ahead of this? Buying precious metals. I keep saying this. I think that your retirement funds would be best suited to be sitting in precious metals. That's why I talk about Genesis Gold Group. They do sponsor a lot of these videos, including this one. They do a fantastic job helping people move retirement funds into gold, silver, platinum. If you don't have a retirement account, or if you have money that's outside of a retirement account, then buy physical metals directly. Take physical possession of them, bury them in your backyard, make sure someone else knows where they are. If you're the only person who knows where it is, they can get lost that way if something were to happen to you, heaven forbid. Make sure that several loved ones know kind of where it is as well. They at least know where to look, at least that they should look. But take physical possession of the metals. Don't stick them in the bank vault. Don't safe deposit boxes are not safe. We learned that last time around with the gold confiscation. So don't do that. Take physical possession of it and hold on to actual assets, whether it's real estate or precious metals. Make sure you have food stockpiled, because when prices change dramatically, some kinds of food may become very unaffordable. But if you already have that stockpiled, then you're in good shape. It's going to rise in value against the dollar at the very least. It's going to be a very good investment against the dollar. There's so much that we can do. And of course, the more self-sufficient you are, the less linked you are to the dollar. If the dollar crashes and you're not really having to buy all that much from the world at large, then you're not really put off by that. Now, is that really manageable for most of us? I think most of the people that watch these videos, it's not manageable for them to become fully self-sufficient. You can try to become a little more self-sufficient, and that's definitely going to make a difference. It's going to help out for sure. But you have 2 months, folks. 2 months to make some changes to get ready for this, because we're going to see a blow up like we haven't seen for decades upon decades. The world is changing, and the markets and the global system is not ready for this change. We're going to see some big fireworks in just a couple months. Make some smart choices. Please protect yourselves. We keep asking you, protect yourselves, protect your loved ones. Convince them to make some smart choices if you can. All right, folks. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, you can check out right over here. I'll see you over there. Or if you want to talk to Genesis Gold Group about your retirement accounts, you can click on that link right there. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.